Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about black privilege in the media and how the media and George Soros and the Democrat Party have been using blacks as a tool for their own political gain for a very long time. So what I'm going to start with is the fact that the Democrats have won the black vote for decades now. They've relied on the black vote. That's one of the things that has always helped the Democrats win. That was probably the biggest deciding factor in Obama winning was the black vote and also people being afraid to be called racist. But the black vote was a key contributing factor of Obama winning, just like the black vote was a key contributing factor for Hillary Clinton in this election, if she were to win. So to start off with the black vote issue, that was the media, the way the media has helped the Democrat Party obtain the black vote consistently is by every time something is happening that involves somebody black, the media will paint the black person as the victim and the white person as the problem. The media will never promote or talk about the black on black killings. They'll never talk about when black people commit a hate crime. You don't see it. You don't see blacks committing hate crimes up and down the media. But when you see a white person do it to somebody black, it's a shitstorm. A good example would be Darren Wilson with Ferguson, because I'll go to Ferguson again, because Ferguson is the example that is the greatest example to use. Officer Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown. Evidence came out later that Michael Brown was attacking Darren Wilson and attempted to disarm him. That was proven. That is why Darren Wilson was exonerated. However, when you look at everything that happened during the timeline of it happening and the Ferguson protests and everything with the media, Black Lives Matter really gained a lot of steam during that, due in large part to the media. That's because the media literally, it was saturating the airwaves. It was ridiculous how much it was on TV. They didn't report anything else besides what Black Lives Matter was doing and the Darren Wilson thing for the most part. Now, the problem with it is Officer Darren Wilson was supposed to, by law, according to the Constitution, Officer Darren Wilson was supposed to have a presumption of innocence until proven guilty. He did not receive that. He did not receive it from the black community, and he did not receive it from the liberal media. When he was exonerated, the liberal media was continuing to paint him as the problem and Michael Brown as the victim, despite evidence contrary to the fact. Despite there being contrary evidence to that. When you look at Baltimore, that saturated the airwaves too, and they were painting the officers in Baltimore as being victims. Well, thing is, Freddie Gray, they had to use force on the man because the man had been committing illegal activities. He had already been suspicious, and if you see a police officer and you instinctively run the moment you see a police officer, that immediately gives the officer probable cause to believe that you are in the process of committing a crime, or you have just committed a crime, or that a crime is about to be committed. They had to restrain him, they had to use force, and things went wrong when they used force. There was a lot of issues with him getting that rough ride in the van. Yes, the rough ride in the van was wrong. Okay, but the thing is, you look into the history with the Baltimore police, it's not just blacks who get that. Whites get it just like blacks do. It was an issue of use of force within the Baltimore Police Department in and of itself. On top of that, it was a black chief of police in the city of Baltimore. So to say that Baltimore was racially motivated would be the most asinine thing, considering that cops involved in it were black. So now we're going to talk about the media with other protesting, however. Let's look at the protest with Oregon. When Oregon happened, and it was that armed white militia, they were Second Amendment activists, they were protesting at a federal wildlife reserve out in Oregon, far away from everything. No civilians, none of that. They were not blocking freeways, they were not being violent, they were just armed and they were exercising their Second Amendment while they protest. The media was saying, well, what if they were black? Well, if they were black, the National Guard would be there. What if they were black? Well, first off, if they were black, the National Guard would not be called unless they were out there rioting and looting. Because that's why the National Guard was called to Ferguson and Baltimore and Milwaukee, is they were being violent, they were looting, they were setting fires, and they were just causing a massive unrest through violence and causing terror to people in the neighborhoods, and they were destroying the neighborhood, they were destroying the community, and they needed to call the National Guard. In Oregon, they were not doing any of that, which is why the National Guard was not called. Now, besides that, there was practically no media coverage on Oregon. They got very limited coverage, whereas Black Lives Matter, they completely saturate the airwaves whenever they're protesting, but when it's a white protest, they're not on the airwaves. Now, we're going to look at the fact that they don't report when blacks do something when they should. Let's look at the case where it was in Chicago, it was earlier this year, where those 4 African Americans abducted that special needs white male and proceeded to beat him and torture him while live streaming it on Facebook. During this, you can hear people that are involved in it, you can hear him saying, "Fuck Donald Trump, fuck white people." If Obama had won the election this year, and it was whites that abducted a special needs black male and they were beating and torturing him, and they said, "Fuck Obama, fuck black people," we both know that this would be up and down the media and it would be saturating the airwaves as a hate crime, racial, this country's racist, da-da-da-da. It would be all over. But when blacks do it, it's not. And it gets very limited coverage. So that, again, is an example of blacks getting almost no coverage when they're doing anything and being protected by the media. Now, I'm going to explain to you why this is happening. I've already touched on the fact that blacks have been used as a political tool for votes for the Democrat Party. But let's go even further. George Soros runs the liberal media. George Soros runs a large amount of it. On top of running a large amount of it, the Democrat Party is very well protected by the liberal media as well. But here's the biggest catch to it. Here's the catch that really stands out with it. Let's look at examples like Pizzagate. I'm going to go into this. I haven't touched on this yet, but I'm going to touch on it. With Pizzagate, there was a bunch of emails found, and there was a lot of leaks everything that showed that the Democrat Party was actually having involvement with a sex ring, pedophilia, and it's a large sex ring, basically, with Pizzagate. That has gotten practically no media coverage. There has been a complete blackout on it. And with the blackout of media about Pizzagate, what this is actually saying to me is that there's something that the media is trying to hide with Pizzagate. The one person who did speak on Pizzagate, you can look into this, just do some research on Pizzagate. This one guy talked about it, and he was pretty much blacklisted and punished for doing it, for even mentioning Pizzagate. Let's talk about some of what was included with Pizzagate, just so you know. John Podesta was one of Hillary Clinton's campaign managers. In Pizzagate, there was a email involving him talking about cheese pizza. Now, I didn't know much about the deep webs at this point, but I looked into it a little more. I did some research in the deep webs, and I know some people who are very in tune with it and know a lot about it. So I asked them about the deep webs, and what was eventually just told to me is that Pizzagate, when the man says cheese pizza, because he asked for cheese pizza in one of the emails, cheese pizza is actually a term used in the deep web to say child pornography. So essentially, John Podesta likes child pornography, one of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairs. We know that Bill Clinton is clearly a sexual predator. We all know that about Bill Clinton. Bill's ridiculous. Hillary Clinton has defended a rapist and then laughed at the victim when she got him off, when she got the rapist off. So we clearly see that the Democrat Party doesn't give a shit about women getting raped or children being exposed. Now, during the time that this Pizzagate thing is happening, they're using everything they can to distract away from it. Things such as Black Lives Matter. And that's how the media also benefits from Black Lives Matter. They use Black Lives Matter as a distraction from issues that can expose them. And they use it when they basically want to saturate the airwaves with that instead of something else. That allowed them to cover up a lot of things. So, there we have it. That's pretty much all that needs to be said. Just do your research into, if you're interested, do your research into Pizzagate. Research into George Soros. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add that too. George Soros essentially runs the Democrat Party. He essentially runs the liberal media as well. That is why during this election, George Soros had Black Lives Matter becoming prominent more so than ever when Hillary Clinton was getting ahead was getting basically beaten. And Trump was starting to gain steam. That was why he had Black Lives Matter getting so heavily involved. Was because he wanted a distraction from Trump. Because Trump had already been saturating the airwaves. Thing is, the man wasn't smart enough to realize that by doing that, you're only proving Trump right, and it's only going to help him because he's still going to saturate the airwaves regardless. Okay, so that right there, that's actually how I'm going to wrap it up. So yeah, do your research into Pizzagate if you want, and George Soros with the media, George Soros and Black Lives Matter. With that, Divisive Legend's going to tune out. Real news, real talk. Peace.